they have floor votes scheduled Monday through Friday. Interesting. I wonder why. Let me see. What's today's date? Oh, yeah, September 15th. That means we have, after today's done, we'll have 15 days, not even, 14 days left of the current budget. The end of the fiscal year. On October 1st, if they don't have a budget passed, well, then nothing is being paid for because the money will not be properly allocated. So that means all kinds of arguing and debates and trying to do spending bills and trying to fund the necessary functions of government. And of course, people who want to hold those hostage, trying to get special spending for special little projects here and there, most of which are not necessary or mandatory or necessarily even authorized or constitutional uses of tax revenue. For example, welfare, Obamacare, spending money to study a shrimp on a treadmill, spending money to get monkeys drunk. That's in the name of science. Okay. Scientific studies, that is an authorized expenditure of federal funding. It is, folks. But paying federal tax dollars to buy food for people who, for whatever reason, aren't working or have decided that working a minimum wage job and not developing any skills to better themselves and better their lives should somehow be subsisted on the labors of those of us who have gone and developed skills and worked harder and worked longer hours and gone somewhere with their lives. So that's not constitutional. The term welfare in regards to food stamps is slang. It is not the term welfare as used by our founders when they wrote the preamble to the Constitution. That welfare, they're referring to safety and security from external threats and disease. General welfare, because a couple people get sick, that's going to happen. But an epidemic starts, that threatens the whole nation. So there's that. So that falls under welfare. However, feeding people who are too lazy to get a job or make themselves marketable to get a job that pays enough to feed them and their family, yeah, not so much. Not saying that people don't deserve a hand up or help. I'm just saying it's not the federal government's role to do so. Well, whose is it, you may ask? Private charities. If you think that there's somebody that needs, a hand up, can use a couple of good meals of fresh, decent food, feed them. That's your right. It's your money or your food that you've bought with your money. You could do with it what you will. It's your choice. That's your freedom. That's your liberty. The government forcing you to do so takes it away from your choice. It's under the use of force. What is taking one person's assets, one person's revenue, the fruit of one person's labors, taking it away by force to give to another? What do we call that? Theft. So, one is charity, done by your own free will. The other one's done against your free will. So just, keep that in the back of your heads as you think about the possibility of them actually passing a budget before the end of the fiscal year so that they can actually allocate the funds for the next fiscal year. Yeah. A bunch of other kind of stories that are interesting over there on BuzzPo. Things to look at. One is there's a video. Looks like they have a picture of Howard Stern sitting there. I haven't read it yet, folks, so I'm taking a look at it right along with y'all. But it's called Idiot Repellent, used liberally on Democrats and liberals in 2014 and 2016. And there's a video there, like I said, and at the beginning of it looks like Howard Stern. So he's always interesting to listen to. Yes, I'm letting you debate me there, folks. Go ahead. I said interesting. I didn't say a pleasure, though he can be. I didn't say it was necessarily funny. I didn't say it was necessarily correct. I just said interesting. And then, for those of you who like playing paparazzi and chasing celebrities, well, Sarah Palin and supposedly, or members of her family, supposedly got involved in a drunken brawl. Now, what's the real story behind this? Well, there's several sides to it, of course. But supposedly the mainstream media has been having a field day with it. Folks, I wasn't paying much attention to the mainstream media this weekend. I was busy dealing with other things that I deemed more important, or of a more immediate importance. But anyway, of course the whole thing's convoluted, but it was supposedly listed as a drunken brawl. But the thing is, the reporters never identified who it was that was actually drunk when they had a fight. Now, according to Steve Ale over at BuzzPo, somebody who's an actual friend of the Palins witnessed the whole thing and kind of came forward and told the story from his perspective. Now, ABC had reported that some guy named Eric Thompson, real convoluted, because I'm looking through Stephen's story and I'm going, this doesn't even make sense. But for one thing, they had the who is what handed all backwards and everything like that, like saying that Bristol Palin was punching with her right hand, but yet she's left-handed, and blah blah blah. And Sarah Palin screaming at somebody, "Don't you know who I am?" But what she really said, according to other witnesses, was, "Don't you know who he is? He's a veteran." Not, "Don't you know who I am?" She wasn't pulling that Democrat thing of, "Don't you know who I am? Why don't you bow down and worship me and do what I say? Don't you know who I am?" No, she asked, "Don't you know who he is? He's a veteran." I was supposing a correct quote. And everything on this thing is just convoluted. Both sides of the story just seem to contain some amount of exaggeration, some amount of difference in the facts, to the point where if a judge were to look at this, they'd probably just go, both of y'all are wrong, so both sides are wrong on this one, and none of your stories match. You're all full of it, so you're all getting charged with disturbing the peace. That's what I'd do. So, it really doesn't make sense. And neither side pressed charges afterwards, so probably realized that although a so-and-so gave me a black eye, I was in the wrong and did something that they could charge me for too. So let's just drop this whole thing. So go ahead and go read that story by Steve Ale. He's got a lot of the information of both sides of the story listed in there. You can go and look back and forth. It is a little confusing, and that is not Stephen's fault, folks. It's not because of poor writing. It's because the whole incident and the facts of the matter with the story themselves are confusing. But isn't that the way it is the mainstream media does? Well, folks, real quick, I mentioned Texas earlier and some of the great things they do. Well, if you're a veteran, or you know a veteran, or you know somebody who's looking to get out of the military soon and wants to use their benefits, and they're not sure where they want to live, or they're looking at possibly living in Texas, or they're already here. If you have a family member, or you yourself are a veteran and you're living in Texas, or like I said, you're planning on coming here once you get out, or if you're from here originally and you might not be getting out in Texas, but you joined from Texas, give a call to the number that Governor Rick Perry is about to give you, and find out what Texas can do to help you.
Our men and women in uniform have valiantly served and profoundly sacrificed for our nation. That's why Texas is expanding staffing at the Texas Veterans Hotline with experts trained to help veterans deal with the VA. Callers can learn what they qualify for, and in the most urgent cases, TVC experts will work directly with the VA to help veterans get the answers and care they need and deserve. Call the hotline at 1-800-252-VETS. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, we're back. Thank you, Governor Perry, for letting us know about that hotline. Other things to talk about real briefly, folks, as the show kind of winds down. Those of you interested in DRT stories, for those that don't know what DRT is, it stands for Dead Right There. Of course, it's the DRT stories are not necessarily involving a death, but what they involve is somebody tries to do a crime, a violent crime, an armed crime, and a law-abiding citizen who is lawfully and legally carrying a firearm or other means of self-defense defends themselves successfully against the criminal. And we have one case over there at BuzzPo, and this seems to happen quite often in Texas, especially in the Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas areas. But in Houston, a store owner was facing an armed robber, and was able to pull his firearm and defend himself and shoot the armed robber. The armed robber's name was Usman Seth. Oh, wait. I got that backwards. Usman Seth was the convenience store owner or worker who was being robbed, and he successfully defended himself. So we've got that story over at BuzzPo, of course, by Eric Reed, a great writer, and a great little story about people defending themselves, using their Second Amendment rights. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And then also over at BuzzPo, story of a disabled veteran who went into a Subway sandwich store with a service dog and was kicked out because they offended one of the Muslim workers or managers or something of that Subway. And for those that don't know, Islam says that dogs are not halal. They're dirty the same way they view pigs, in the same way Jews view pigs as not kosher. So he was tossed out with his service dog because they didn't want the dog in there, even though he's a service animal. And Yeah, I think there's some kind of federal law violated there somewhere. Not that I'm a big fan of a lot of federal laws, but that's one I kind of support. You know, when someone has a legitimate service animal that they need for whatever their problem is, if it's legitimate, you gotta let them have the dog, or sometimes it's a cat, or it could even be a hamster. But you have to have them love that service animal in there. And for those who didn't see, late last week, ISIS has beheaded a third victim, a third journalist. This one was a British man, a hostage by the name of David Haynes, and they executed him on the video. And the video stated that this execution was a message to all of America's allies that allying with America will not be tolerated. And Obama currently has a coalition of 9 countries willing to stand up against ISIS with us. Of course, you know, that's a coalition of 9, not like the unilateral individual not having any other backers and doing it all ourselves acts that Bush did with the global war on terror and against Iraq. It's not like Bush had, 37 fellow nations in the coalition or anything. Yes, folks, I'm being sarcastic there. Bush had 37, yet he supposedly acted alone and unjustly. Obama has 9. Less than a fourth of the number Bush did of coalition partners. But he's partnered up with many. Gotta love the spin on that stuff, folks. So let's hoping we can overcome this terrorist group. And Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISI, whatever their name, folks, it's the same group. They changed their names to protect the guilty. So it's the same thing. Trying to think if there's anything else for the rest of the day, and I'm seeing it. There's too much. We can talk for easily another hour, folks. And I'm sorry if you feel like I wasted your time talking about my non-human family members earlier today, but actually I'm not sorry. That's something that I think is important, folks. For those who own pets, you understand exactly what I'm saying. For those of you that don't, well, if you feel so inclined to try a pet, I suggest you do. They'll change your life. They'll let you see things in a different way, and they'll bring joy to you, even when they do get sick and do pass. It makes you look at the fun times, the interesting things, why they were a joy to have in your life in the first place. And that's what I'm trying to hold on to myself when I think of my little Truffle Bear. Well, folks, my name is Paul-Gregory Matuszak, and this has been the Mouth of Matuszak show for Monday, September 15th. We'll be with you again right back here tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 Central. That's 9 to 10 Eastern. And adjust your times accordingly across the rest of the U.S. We'll be back to talk at you for another hour tomorrow. Make sure you call in 520-226-8567. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow, folks. You have a great day and a great work week. Get to it. Bye-bye.
Mr. America, look what you've done.
Yeah, looking at the country is not